Reimagining Success, episode 115. You're listening to Reimagining Success, the podcast where we help you reimagine your future, designing a life and career beyond the 9 to 5 that allows you the freedom, flexibility, and fulfillment that you've been dreaming of. I'm your host, Anna Lundberg. Now, let's get started on those dreams. Hello, welcome back. My name's Anna Lundberg. Welcome to the latest episode of the Reimagining Success podcast, where we're going to make like Nike and just do it. So let me tell you a bit more around why we're looking at this idea. In fact, it's my theme for this year. So there you go. I've finally revealed what my phrase or theme is for the year. If you haven't come up with a word or a phrase or you don't know what I'm talking about, do check out the podcast episode from a few weeks ago. I think it was in December, the last episode of last year, 2020, really talking about how you can come up with and why you should or could come up with a more powerful way of guiding your year, giving you a framework, a structure, but still flexibility, and something that's much more effective than doing the old school New Year's resolutions. So do check that out. But my phrase is just do it. And it came up pretty organically, I suppose. And for me, and I'll talk about this in a moment and I'll give you a bit more context, but for me personally, I think it's come from the fact that there's quite a few things for me, as for everybody, because, you know, we're constantly learning and it's easy to get back into our comfort zones, however much we've grown and evolved. And I've certainly made a lot of progress on a lot of my so-called weaknesses and challenges. But for me now, I actually have 2 children under 2, which is the classic difficulty of having little kids at home. So I'm not homeschooling during COVID and so on as I record this, but as you can imagine, sleep is not so much abundant and there's a lot going on. We don't have childcare and so on at the moment. So not to, in any way sort of moan about that, because it's actually going quite well, knock on wood. And I'm fortunate to have my partner helping me, and we're very much equally sharing that responsibility at the moment, and the kids are wonderful, etc., etc. However, because of this, as you can imagine, I have fewer hours than ever with 2 little children, no childcare and so on in the day. I'm slotting in my work early in the morning, during naps, and in the evenings and so on. And so with that in mind, I have to just get on with it. I can't sit around, slowly thinking about this and that, and maybe I'll do this, and what if I did? And that's perhaps a shame, because, I'm a big fan of, as we talked about the last few weeks as well, vision boards and taking that time to strategize and reflect and so on. However, in my case, I've been in business for some years now. I do know what I'm doing. Every time I attend a virtual conference, listen to a podcast, now recently joining Clubhouse discussions and so on, I hear things, I know these things, right? It's just a matter of implementing it. So if you're at that same stage as me, if you don't have a huge amount of time for whatever reason, and or you've been in business for a while, and you know what, you've consumed every single course, you've worked with coaches, you've done all that jazz, and you've got the strategy in place, then maybe the reason why you're not doing something is something other than lack of knowledge, right? Lack of knowing what to do. It's that you're procrastinating. Maybe there's some fears going on there. Maybe you're just analyzing, analysis paralysis, and that's holding you back. It's becoming an excuse for not doing anything. So again, for me, just do it has become my mantra. Things like, in fact, last year, one of my biggest priorities was to pitch myself more to the media. I made a lot of progress at the beginning of the year. I researched outlets and I started tentatively email people. And then, I got pregnant and various things happened throughout the year. However, I did not get round to doing it because I was constantly telling myself, I should be doing this. But I got on with the many other very important things as well. I launched a new program, the Business Accelerator. I made all sorts of other progress and I worked with amazing clients, and a lot was happening last year as well. However, at this stage, I know this is a priority for me and it's something that I am now getting on with. And rather than just keep thinking about it, and it can be really heavy, actually. It weighs down on you because it's just something you should do, you want to do it, you kind of know how to do it, and yet for whatever reason, you're not doing it. So that for me is why just do it is my theme this year. I have very little time and therefore every minute counts, and I'm going to just get on with it, pitch that outlet, send that email, chat to that person, get on the phone with that person, write the book, whatever that is, right? So that's my personal context. But, why is just do it not such a good idea? First of all, I guess setting the scene. Well, I'm a big fan, as I said, of strategies, of visions, the whole concept of this podcast and everything I do is around reimagining success. And as we always say, if you don't know what you're trying to achieve, you don't know where you're trying to get to, how on earth are you going to get there? And so it is very important to take that time, if you can, to have that luxury to explore, to reflect, to research, to learn, and so on, right? So that is incredibly important. What you don't want to do is rush ahead, willy-nilly, as I say, and, scattergun approach, throw yourself into something which isn't the right thing for you, and then you regret it. You will have spent time and money on something that isn't meaningful, won't bring you meaningful success. In business specifically, if you're just kind of blurting stuff out randomly on social media, inconsistently, whenever you feel like it, you don't have a strategy, a content theme, you don't know what you're selling, you don't know who your target audience is, and so on, that's not going to be very efficient either, or effective. So there is a lot to be said for, and a lot of the other episodes that I talk about, of course, will be around having that strategy, taking the time, and so on. However, why can it be, and I've already hinted at my own personal story there, why can it be powerful to, at one point, just do it? And let me go through a few different ideas. When could this just be the right approach, to just do the damn thing? And the first one is something I covered a couple of weeks ago in the podcast episode on what to do when you don't have motivation. And in fact, the last point I gave you then was, hey, just do it. Take action, do something, anything. Because contrary to widespread belief, it's not that we have to sit around waiting for motivation and then take action. It's in fact action that creates that motivation. So get off your seat, get off your bum, go out, send the email, do the research, take the step, talk to that person, buy the whatever it is, right? Just do it. Take action. That's going to create motivation because, hey, suddenly you're doing something, you've got the ball rolling, things are going to happen, it's just going to keep rolling. There's momentum there. You're feeling motivated because you've started taking action and you're actually getting somewhere. You're going to begin making progress, and that's a little bit scary, but also very exciting. And you'll create momentum as well. So, motivation, momentum, and confidence in the fact that things are happening. So that's the first reason why just getting on with the damn thing is so powerful. It's going to give you confidence, motivation, and momentum, which is very important. Second thing is, things take a hell of a lot longer than you realize, than I realize too, right? We all have these naive ideas, I think, as to how long it'll take to build an audience, to have business success, whatever that means, to write a book, whatever aspect of business or your career that might be. And so, the Chinese proverb, it's better to let's rephrase it now to say the best time to plant a tree would have been 100 years ago. The second best time is today, right? So yes, of course, I could have started my podcast 5 years ago, but hey, much better to start it today. Let's say I really have always wanted to write a book. Well, okay, start writing a book now. Even if you're not sure, you're thinking about starting a business. Okay, maybe a year from now, you will be absolutely hating your job. You're going to be desperate to quit. Maybe you'll be made redundant, and at that point, you will have wished that you would have spent the previous year beginning to research ideas, get that out, identify your audience, start building that brand and platform for yourself. So, however much you don't feel ready to do these things, beginning tentatively is going to give you more of a run-up, more of a runway, and that means you can do things more slowly, you can make mistakes, and, you'll be in a much better place this time next year if and when you want to press the button and make that decision, take that action. Now, again, as much as I'm a fan of theory and visions and strategies and so on, there's only so much we can do from behind the desk. So yes, we can have that beautiful piece of paper and it can be a really powerful, effective strategy, but unless we actually apply it, implement it, nothing's going to happen, first of all, even if it's the most perfect strategy. Secondly, there's no such thing as a perfect strategy because every business, every audience, every individual is different. And so, yes, of course, there are principles and strategies that we can apply and we can teach you, I can teach you, but ultimately we won't know until we put it out there, until we see if that audience resonates with your message, until we play around with different copy, until we put different posts on different channels and so on. So we have to go out there and do something, try it to see what response we get to begin to tweak and evolve the strategy. So that's really important too. Number 4 is, from my own experience, as I said, when you're really short on time, and let's face it, everybody is, whether you're doing a business alongside your full-time job, you've got lots of kids, you're juggling whatever other things in your life, we all have a lot going on. And when you're really short on time, you want to make sure that every minute you spend on this, whatever it is actually bringing some kind of result. It's the right thing to be doing in that moment. And you are actually doing something, not just sitting around drawing pretty pictures and so on, right? So again, a lot to be said for having strategies, plenty of other things to be said around taking the time to explore and research and so on. But ultimately, you're probably better served, certainly at the beginning, just start taking action. You'll learn, you'll evolve, you'll get better, and then you'll be in a much better place later on to do things more effectively than you would have if you never tried. So if you have very little time, then probably just getting on with it rather than spending hours and weeks thinking about, oh, should I do this, should I do that? Just send the email. And then, you'll learn. If you're pitching the media, let's say, you'll send 10 notes, or if you're pitching a client on LinkedIn, let's say, maybe you're contacting 10 B2B potential clients, you'll see where you're getting a response. You can try different wording, and you'll be able to use and optimize that messaging that's really working. And then finally, even if the thing that you're doing is wrong, if there is such a thing, if you fail, again, if failure is such a thing, then you will have learned something. So, not to be overly positive and naive around these things, but actually everything we do, especially in business, we're learning something. Okay, that didn't quite work. They didn't resonate with that. I didn't prepare enough for this. This is what I could do differently next time. And then you'll learn. So rather than me spending months and months planning for the perfect launch in September, actually, why not try doing a mini launch now, a soft launch, and then, okay, 2 people buy, nobody buys. Okay, what was it? I'll ask people, I'll get feedback next launch, next month. Again, maybe a few more people watching it. Oh, actually, that, moved the needle a little bit, but not enough. Is it the positioning of the offer? Is it the target audience? Am I just not reaching enough people and so on, right? So by the time I come to September, I will have run this 6 times, 7 times, 8 times, whatever. And then when I desperately need, if you ever desperately need those results, then, hey, I can push the button. I know that I have a tried and tested formula, essentially. So again, even if something is wrong, if it's not the right step for you, you'll learn, you'll realize, okay, that wasn't quite the right project for me. Okay, that wasn't the right way of approaching this. That wasn't the most effective way of formulating this or whatever, right? But we'll learn from that and we'll be able to move forwards. So examples might be, and I've suggested a few of them, I'd like to write a book. We talk about that so much. I'd like to start a business maybe. I've given my example many times. Oh, I'd really like to be featured as an expert by the media and so on, right? Just do it. Start writing the book. Start drafting ideas. Buy some software. Start collecting your notes. Just sit down and write. Block some time in your calendar and do that. Again, if you're thinking of starting a business, begin to research it now and begin to look into it. What would it take to put up a simple website, or what's the bare minimum you can do in order to move it forwards? What can you do? Do you know somebody who has done this thing before that you want to do, and you can ask them for advice? You can work with a coach, join a course, a program, whatever, right? You can do it softly if you're not in a rush, but just do the damn thing. So start writing, take that first step, send the pitch, and then we can learn from it. So again, I've shared at the beginning my big picture context of having those 2 kids under 2, just as a sort of a little example of this. As I record this, I just joined Clubhouse, the new sort of audio conversation, collaboration, social media app, which you may have heard of now. I was just on there for the first time yesterday, and I joined a couple of sessions, and the second one was on personal branding and the media. And I thought, hey, I should really ask a question. I had my baby sort of shaking him, or not shaking, that sounds wrong, but rocking, I guess, gently, my baby eating lunch. And I raised my hand, as you can do on the app, asked a question, and now have a fantastic, well, first of all, I got great feedback and advice. They said, your pitch is great, really confident, absolutely, we need your perspective. And now I've got an email contact with somebody at a big media channel who can help me both specifically there, and also he's given me some great advice. So, I could have thought, oh, maybe I should at some point reach out to this person. Maybe when I get more comfortable with being on this platform, I'll talk to someone. But hey, why not just raise your hand? Why not just ask the question? What is the worst thing that can happen? And not a lot can go wrong, really, to be honest. So, and nobody's going to judge you for it either. So those are a couple of examples from my side too. So there we have it. Simple, right? Just do it. So my challenge to you is, if there's something you've been thinking about for a long time, you kind of been eyeing this course you were considering, or some, big picture dream you've had for years and you haven't got around to exploring actually if it's feasible, or something quite small, whatever the scale, whatever the context, whatever, business, career, life, whatever, just do it. Pick up the phone, send the email, buy the book, listen to this, talk to that person, whatever it is, right? Just give it a go. And again, you'll create momentum and motivation. You'll learn from it. You'll build confidence. You'll be able to do it even better next time. You'll keep taking steps. And before you know it, you'll be in a very different place to where you are now. We'll talk about this in terms of getting out of your comfort zone, which is one of the core concepts as well of my sort of coaching philosophy. But staying stagnant and stuck, if that is you, I feel you. It is not a good place to be. And I can still have that in certain areas too. But it's, wanting to be here and actually just staying over here doing nothing about it is, as I always say, soul destroying. I'm not going to, beat around the bush. I'm not exaggerating there. It's not hyperbole. Lots of expressions here. It's not hyperbole. It really is, soul destroying. It destroys your soul. It wears you down if you don't align your actions with your vision. I've spent the last month or so talking about your vision. So now we're looking more at the mindset that it takes to actually implement that vision. So really bear that in mind. You want to be aligned. You want to be living that life. I had a call with a client just the other day and she was saying, you know what, I'm so, I guess, positive, and I believe, I have faith now that pretty much anything I want to do is possible. And there are lots of naysayers around and, maybe years of conditioning from my business, from school, from parents and friends and so on around me. Negativity has made us limit ourselves in terms of what's possible. But now, no, I know that this is possible. I can think very creatively around how I want to live my life, how I'm going to do this business and so on. And it's just a matter of going out there and doing it. So that's really powerful as well. So I hope that's a message that you needed to hear. Maybe you know someone else who's been hesitating about something. You can pass this episode on to them, encourage them, give them a little bit of a nudge. Join me in just doing it this year. And I'd love to hear from you. What is that thing that you really feel you need to do? As ever, you can get me at podcast@onestepoutside.com, podcast@onestepoutside.com. Or of course, you can hit me up on any social media channel as well where you're following me. So thanks so much for listening. I look forward to continuing these conversations around mindset in the next couple of months. And again, let's follow Nike's famous slogan and just do it. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you next week. Bye for now. Thanks for listening to Reimagining Success with Anna Lundberg. I'm sure you know someone, a friend, a colleague, who could also benefit from this podcast. I'd love for you to share the podcast or maybe your favorite episode with them so that they can listen too. Thank you so much for your support.